Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. This is the TA and chart analysis for January 14th, 2022. And the thing is, like on the 7-day, on the weekly, we are up. But however, there's a weird formation. I mean, you can see like the crest was definitely here around the 13th or about 2 days ago. I know today is the 14th, but remember, like TradingView does it in Asian time essentially. So essentially, we are here in the top was about 2 days ago of this small time period, and we're slightly down. Now, if you look at the head and shoulders formation, I mean, if this is the head and these are the two shoulders, the neckline should kind of be around this area. So our average line right now, which is up here, is actually slightly above the neckline. So if we actually hold above this neckline, there should be somewhat of a trend up. Some people are still betting on 35,000. I think that's less likely to happen now than going up to 45 or 46,000 right now. But there's still no solid bets right now. This is the 5-day graph. If you look at the 7-day graph, which is the weekly graph, it shows kind of the same thing. The neckline for the head and shoulders should be around about right here, and we're slightly above that. I would say we're roughly maybe like $600-700 above that, which is not safe or solidly above that. If you actually look at this where we're current settling, it is actually slightly above the two shoulder levels. Unless we have like a cancerous hump right here, realistically, I think we're actually going up a little bit. However, what the worrying thing is, the volume is actually triggering down. You can see like during this height here, there was a big trigger up in volume, and then like it slid down, and the volume is continuing to slide down. That doesn't make me feel all that good because the volume has been slightly augmented since this dump, but now it's like sliding back down again. And we really, really want to see, really want to see this above $47,000 right now. So right now, like, yes, I do agree that this kind of hump is going to be much greater than this hump, or even this hump kind of right here. So this segment is actually like kind of crawling up, but we don't really want to see this kind of go back down. And the thing is, like right now, what we see this area actually defying the kind of like symmetrical movement up and down. If this had actually been lower than this, then I would say we were moving back down. But since this is slightly higher, it's much harder to see. If you look at if you just look at the second 7-day graph, you can see like if this had actually peaked around 42. And this would be symmetrical, like this would be the top right here, and then these would be like symmetrical here, and this would be symmetrical with this. But this is obviously not symmetrical with this. This is actually higher than the last bump. So that's definitely a good sign, and definitely looking to be like somewhat bullish. However, until we get to around 48,000, we cannot definitely say that this is bullish. If you look at the, if you want to look at the longer term trend, let's say if you want to look at the definitely like at the longer term trend, for the daily candles, this is like way too high, but we've seen this a couple times. We've definitely seen this a couple times. Let me just refresh that because the line got in the way. We've definitely seen this like a couple times on this when we go into a much longer time frame. 6 months. It's hard to say for 6 months, but I think like we are getting kind of like at least somewhat of a revival here. And at least for the year, like the momentum is still up, but the momentum is very, very weak. Right now, you can see the top to top is barely going up. The bottom to bottom actually has gone up a little bit more. And I actually do think that this was probably the last leg down and that leg happened because of the CPI scare, the inflation scare. But now since all those reports have actually come out, I don't think it's going to go down much further. And plus, like on the shorter term, if you look at the neckline on the latest head and shoulders, we are solidly above the neckline. So that should be, well, not solidly above the neckline, but we are actually like a couple $100 above the neckline. So that does actually assume that, well, not assume, but that does actually say that we're going to be up. Like the neckline would honestly be around here, and we're like up on where the green line is, and that is a difference of like $600-700. So if we don't if we don't suddenly drop down and we keep going at this kind of rate, I think we will actually peak above 44,000. And if we actually close a day at around 45,000, I think that's a much clearer signal of a bullish reversal. And the technical analysis, if you look at the numbers, that kind of supports it. If you look right now on the daily, the oscillators, they're neutral pretty much, but like the moving averages, like we're actually above the 10-day SMA, and we're pretty close to the 10-day EMA. Just like $200 more and we'd be above the 10-day EMA. But if we closed at $45,000 or above, we would actually be above the 20-day SMA and the 20-day EMA. At 46,000, like the 30 would flip, and at 48, the 50 would start flipping. So essentially, if we actually reach that plateau of about 48,000, we would actually have positive on the 10, 20, and 30, and that definitely signals more of a bullish movement just by the numbers of the SMAs and EMAs themselves. EMA, by the way, is an exponential moving average, and SMA is obviously simple moving average. So in case for those of you that didn't know. On the weekly, 48 would be actually like the first kind of break, and that would actually put us positive for the 10-day EMA at 48.49. As the days move on, if we continue to be low, that will actually come down slightly. And I think like, around 48,000, that definitely puts us like kind of on a bullish trend, and 50,000 definitely puts us on a bullish trend. And especially at 50,000, both the exponential for the 10 and 20 would actually be above, and that would actually turn to buy. So realistically, we have to get to that second step before we dump down in early January, before we can actually proclaim any kind of real bullish signal. Although a close above 45 would actually signal short-term bullishness. The commodity channel index for the weekly, it continues to be fairly close to oversold, but still neutral. The stochastic to me is still oversold. So we are pretty much neutral at this point on the weekly as well. On the monthly, the 10-month and the 10-month EMA and SMA is negative, but like I said, if we reach that 48,000 plateau, they will actually become positive. And at that point, like you'd have the weekly and the monthly be turning up, and the daily would be turning up too. So 48, 49,000 is definitely like that magic number we're actually waiting for to see all the technicals come up. But 45,000 would be the first good sign. 45,000 closing would be the first good sign right now. I do actually think there is a good chance in early February that we could actually break that the 48,000 mark. Like I said, I'm not as bullish about the last 2 weeks of the month as the first 2 weeks because the future's closing. But with the CPI scare and everything being over, and the CPI not being worse than what people thought it was, I do think we got rid of a lot of the fear and bearishness. I mean, of course, the whales will continue to try to manipulate it and move us up and down, but I don't think the fear sentiment in the market is quite as strong. People know that the economy, due to inflation, could be kind of weak, but we're already kind of braced for that. And plus, crypto over the long term should actually rise because of inflation, because it's crypto, since crypto doesn't really inflate, since Bitcoin doesn't really inflate, it should rise due to inflation. So those factors play together, I think will eventually make a bullish market in early 2022. Probably, I'm really looking at February. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.